Okay, it looks like we are live. Well, welcome to this next edition of Voices of Video. We are really excited about the opportunity to talk to video experts and founders of companies, engineers, really anybody doing something super interesting in the area of video. And today, I am joined by Szymon Karbowski, who is the CEO of StreamVX. By the way, my name is Mark Donnigan. I work with NETINT. And, Szymon, I guess, first of all, thank you for joining us. It's great to
It's
be in
pleasure to be
conversation
with you
with
here.
you.
Yeah, the pleasure is
Excellent.
mine. Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, super, super. Well, I know that we're doing some real interesting things together, our two companies. But today we're here to talk about live streaming in the box. And before we get into the product, why don't you tell us who is StreamVX?
Yeah, well, so StreamVX, long story short, is a Polish company focused on building the software products towards the video environment. So we're delivering products which solves typical issues, or maybe sometimes not typical, the issues which broadcasters or operators, telcos happen to have while trying to deliver or want to deliver the video. And the
Yeah.
transcoder is basically one of them, which we're probably going to discuss further on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the journey of your company, you've been at this a little while. So, what are the roots of StreamVX? Were you created to build this solution, or did you get here? What's the origin story, I guess, of the
Yeah,
company and the
there's
product?
always there's always some story, and of course, and probably ours is quite interesting indeed. The roots are very long. Once my friend said that the broadcast is the industry which you either love and you're doing this for all your life, or you just hate it, and next year you're just doing completely different stuff. So I stayed basically. So that's what I'm doing. My whole life is a broadcast and entertainment or pay TV market.
Hmm.
And I always work with different vendors, and over my career, there was plenty of things I touched. I had to deploy on the big deployments, big production deployments in the multiple pay TV operations, and happened to find a place where I can co-found the company, which started building this a little upside down in the modern way, but and solving these disadvantages which I always hated. Uh, so yeah, that's where we are, and the team we gathered here in StreamVX is also a lot of passionate people which support this vision that we should make sophisticated processes easy, but
Yeah.
also make sure that the basics of broadcast are maintained. So the stability
Yeah.
and all this, assurance that the life is life.
Yeah, that's right. I know when you're talking, broadcast or operator type infrastructure, sometimes those who come from, shall we say, the more like OTT side, they may say the more modern side. It's easy to, almost look at some of the technologies that are used and, the way the systems are built. There's still black boxes in a lot of those networks, right? And,
True,
it's easy to
that's
look
the
at
yeah.
it and think, that's a little old fashioned. And yet, when you have to operate a service and you have to guarantee five nines reliability and uptime, and there's a very specific bar for quality that's delivered, to every household or to every TV set, it's actually pretty difficult compared to the internet, which is best efforts. OTT at the end of the day, let's face it, it's best efforts. And that's why you still get buffers and buffering events. And that's why, you might have a beautiful 50-inch TV that's getting 480p because there's some sort of a network issue and the ABR
It's,
is,
exactly.
and
It's trying to
meanwhile,
handle and help you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Well, let's why don't you give as we were preparing, you told me that there's really four I know there's more, but there's four primary problems, that you're solving for your customers. And I thought they were excellent. So, why don't you give us an overview of what those problems are?
Sure, sure. As you said, basically there is a lot more, but to pick up something which is critical, and we see it happens all over the world with our customers. The biggest one concern right now, obviously, about the geopolitics, is a power consumption, because
Hmm.
in Europe the power is getting more and more expensive, and obviously it make big operation to really reconsider if that usage can be somehow optimized. So that's one. But on the other hand, of course, it's much farther than that, because the power generates the heat, so the heat generates the AC to run faster and more and so on. So that's in total a lot of things here are getting to the power, but you can optimize that getting a very dense solution like we do with NETINT, that you have really like a lot of density in really small form factor. So we're reducing both, because the cards are very, very power efficient, but also they're taking not much space. So we can reduce both. So that's definitely a topic number one. The side effect of that, which is not also very obvious or very popular or very easy to do on the appliances, as you mentioned, is also which sounds really ridiculously simple, but just the knowledge how the power is used by the device, which we also encourage, because for our products it's pretty basic function to display the usage, power usage, and you can basically see this or attach this towards API to your system to just monitor this constantly, which is again considered as a really basic, but it's not obvious. So usually on the appliance level, you have to do some tricks to do that, and to have this knowledge.
So you
Definitely
actually
the
provide the power draw of the server chassis, that
Yeah,
information
we can.
back to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
user?
yeah. We can. We doing that, and also, yeah, we're doing that exactly.
Interesting. Huh. Wow. Yeah, that's
Uh,
pretty unusual, I believe. Yeah.
I mean, it's coming from this requirement that the customers are asking, okay, how much power does this use?
Yeah.
But then, of course, it's not so easy answer there, because we both know that if you do a little more performant tasks on the software, it
Hmm.
can leverage a little higher voltages on the servers and the cards. But if you happen to do something less stressful for the hardware,
Hmm.
it can be lower. So basically, okay, we can give the datasheet which gives you the range, but then it's not it's an average answer, and
Yeah.
with our metrics, you basically getting the answer like measurement on the live stuff. The second, going further, yeah, the second point is definitely the quality. I mean, we're also living in the world of the OTT wars, or the streaming wars, however you call it. So there is really big fight to find a differentiator between the
Hmm.
operations, and the quality happens to be one of those differentiators, quite important one.
Hmm.
So again, keeping the quality as high as possible, but also being aware of the metrics, and
Hmm.
like assuming that the VMAF is giving you something which is objective and considered by the industry as a good metrics, or a consistent metric to give you the
Hmm.
comparison. This is important to understand it, to support this by the products, but also to have a products which give this score, allows you to keep these scores very, very high.
Hmm.
And this again pretty obvious metric of the quality, but there are also like latency or stability. Yeah,
Hmm.
so smoothly going towards next. Latency is very important for the sports. We all hate these cases where you have a
Yeah.
screaming of your neighbor, the goal, and then you see the screen of the guy which is just starting on the other
You
side of the site.
you already know what happened in the play, right? But you haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
Probably worse,
Yeah.
worst viewing scenario you can imagine.
Yeah.
So the latency comes here also, in our
Yeah.
opinion, a big metric for the quality. But again, together with NetInt, it's being squeezed, and we can really touch really low numbers with the ASICs to really push the latency very low.
Hmm.
The stability, that's something which we're speaking, and I'm encouraging all the time, pushing this towards the very important factors, because we have to remember that, okay, there is a lot of products we deploy in this bridge between the typical broadcast operation and the broadcast going to OTT, because that's also obvious direction that a lot of operators of the pay TV
Hmm.
want to have a part of the typical broadcast operation moved towards the devices. So
Hmm.
on the OTT or OTT technologies, maybe not necessarily out of the network, but used
Hmm.
ABR. But they have this, as you mentioned in the earlier, yeah, they have this attitude of the all black boxes, which are
Yes.
also very, very stable, clunky and whatever, but they very, very stable. So our
Yeah.
products moving this towards software are trying to make this nice marriage of the new technologies, which allows you to
Yeah.
scale fast, scale efficiently, really leverage the density. But then we have to, and that's the basic assumption, we have to be rock solid stable. I mean,
Hmm.
the life is life and it must go on. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
most important part in here. I don't want to have a break in the game. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's something not going to happen. So
Yeah.
stability and also redundancy scenarios, because whatever the appliance is and however it's stable is, there is always something, like a Murphy's law says. Yeah? There is always one more bug.
Hmm.
There is always something to fail, and it can
Yeah.
be very simple, very sophisticated. So redundancy scenarios comes to stability. That's also very, very important. Again, in our products together with the NetInt, we can do really fancy scenarios, really sophisticated scenarios, which give you this assurance that the life runs on
Yeah.
whatever happens below,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And then of course there is this factors with the usability. Yeah? This is really very, very important because we see that okay, the world evolves, and this must be easy, and this must be much easier than previously. I mean, you don't want to make mistakes in the production or make this more sophisticated than it's supposed to be. You have to make sure that, okay, you can manage this quickly and easily. It should be accessible, and this UX, we can call it right now, and
Yeah.
appliances was not, designed in the times that somebody was discussing UX at all. But still, you managing production, so the stability is important, but you don't want to make long processes or a lot of decisions which puts you in the place where it's easy to make a mistake. That's the part.
Yeah.
This easiness is also very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is that there is a just as the reliability of the product is very carefully engineered into the whole solution, starting with the software and then extending to the hardware you choose to support. There's another element which is the usability of it, the user interface that is actually more than just, is it easy to use, but it actually contributes to stability, right? Because a user has a lower chance of maybe making a configuration error. Is
Yeah,
that what
exactly.
you're saying, and is that what you have found? Um, that
Yeah,
a
because
high quality UX is more than just a beautiful screen. It actually gives a more reliable system, right?
there's some smart guys at once that UX is a journey. It's not a one thing. Well, at this point of the time, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, we happen to push really hard on the UX and the UI experience in our products because, as you said, it's the processes we're handling and in this transition from the broadcast signals towards OTT environment,
Hmm.
transcoding, packaging, protecting the content with the DRMs, that all it's very important. But if you take a look on the whole ecosystem here, the process can be really sophisticated. But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, if it comes to the transcoder, you have like hundreds of parameters you can put towards the transcoder to make the
Yeah.
video, yeah, but not
Yeah.
necessarily, being aware that there's some combination will gonna blow the picture down to the really ugly quality or
Yeah.
ugly effect at the end of the day. So what we do and we're trying to do, we're making sure that okay, the most of the cases you have really easy path to configure something quick and easy. And of
Hmm.
course, if you're really advanced and and you're completely sure you want to make a custom configuration, you always can pick a custom and type whatever you want, or even do this through the API. So you can omit like a nice windows and the clicking. You
Yeah.
can do this from the command line. But that's really heavy users, and we see this really in explicit cases while somebody really want to do something extra custom.
Yeah.
Usually you have really like easy clicking up several dozen times the same settings because you want to make sure also that the chosen or checked verified settings are always
Hmm.
repeated the proper way, and that's one of the things UX can handle for you. But
Yeah.
again, the point here is that you're not allowing to make a mistake, which makes the user experience better and the production more
Yeah.
stable and the
That's
whole
right.
maintenance or easier.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we're about to get into a demo. You're going to show how easy it is, I know, to, start a channel and stop a channel and configure. But maybe before we do that, w- can you explain what exactly are you selling? What have you developed? Are you bringing to market just the software? Is it software plus hardware? Is it software plus only specific hardware? Does it run on, any x86 server? Like, I think it'd be really helpful to explain what exactly you're bringing to the market.
Sh- Sure, that's a very good question, Mark. Actually, yeah. So the whole idea behind the StreamVX is to make a software product, and we really tend to be agnostic for the hardware.
Hmm.
Which in some cases, of course, goes towards the case we are right now using NETINT boards, NETINT
Hmm.
cards to accelerate processing of the video. Uh, but that's kind of dependency which we tend to agree on because we leverage a completely different level of the density, again, the quality and all these things. But of
Hmm.
course, from the perspective of the our product, we can do this the same process on the GPU. We can do this on the CPU,
Hmm.
and that goes just lands in the different places when it comes to this density or power usage. All these
Yeah,
factors we mentioned in the previous points are landing in the different points. So
sure.
this is always choice of the customer, of course, because some
Yeah,
cases customer just wants very specific hardware to be used. But from
yeah,
perspective of StreamVX products, we really can run on anything basically. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's what we that's what the DNA of our products is, and that's how we work. However, we really like partnerships like NetInt because if we can squeeze, as much as possible from some board, from some card, and give some extra features or extra gains to the customers, that usually lands in the lot of interest in the our customers.
Are most of your customer, excuse me, are most of your customers deploying in public cloud, private cloud, you know, just an on-prem data center? Uh, what does it look like in terms of how they're deploying your software?
Yeah, if I would say, okay, again, not, no easy answer for that, but if I should generalize that, I would say that most of them, again, it's broadcast operators or pay TV operators. So usually they own the headends somehow, or some
Yeah,
server rooms, data centers, however we call it.
sure.
So usually they choose to deploy in their own infrastructure because they own it already. So we can be really optimal on the footprint together with this solution we right now.
Yeah.
Speaking about, so we're not really rising this footprint heavily, adding a few more servers to do swap for the appliances, which was using like several times more. So that's a big advantage.
Hmm.
But there are some cases where there is a demand for deploying on the private or public cloud, of course.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just changing. In my opinion, it's never going to land the big scale operations like we're powering right now, 300 channels for the four biggest operator in the country on cable. That's not going to land in the cloud because the traffic throughput towards the cloud and back from the cloud is
Hmm.
just too expensive to
Yeah.
sustain the model of the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
the one thing is the capabilities because the design and the architecture of our products allowing you to deploy this basically almost anywhere, public, private cloud, local prem. But
Hmm.
most of the big cases we deployed are local.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, we're definitely seeing the same thing for channels that are streaming, shall we say, 24/7. So true live linear. Um, eh, the cloud effectively, the economics don't work. It doesn't work. You have
Exactly.
significant, and of course everybody has a different deal that they strike, but you have to consider egress cost, and it's not just the cost of getting the bits into the cloud. It's traversing the cloud and then getting the bits back out, and it's and then the other problem is that if the business is scaling, there's really no economies with the cloud. So the whole idea is, hey, but you can start small, and then you don't have to go make a very large upfront capital investment, by going to the public cloud. Well, that's all true. The problem is, as you scale your operations, though, meaning like the number of channels you offer, et cetera. Well, guess what? Your costs scale proportionately. And so you
Exactly.
never, you're not able to benefit from an investment that, true, maybe on day one you had to write a big check, but you're able to amortize that over not only a longer period of time, but also over a lot of users. So
Exactly.
we're definitely seeing that in broadcast. Well, let's get to
But
the demo. Are
just
you
just one comment towards that, if I may.
sure?
But there is a really interesting case which happened to be more and more on the table in our discussions with customer right now. It's then you have an operation which we all know is not so much resistant. I mean, the streaming operations are not so much resistant for the peak hours than the broadcast was, obviously, as the technology
Yeah.
behind it. So what happens with the cloud, and what's for us, it's quite easy again to kind of leverage the architecture we done, is that for the peak hours, the offloading of the peaks towards
Mm.
cloud works perfectly fine because then there is really small incident like few hours where you have to offload your infrastructure because you have too many requests and you're handling that towards the cloud. And
Yeah.
then when it's gone, you're back to your own infrastructure. Then you're having a bill exactly what the cloud is for. Yeah? You're
Yeah.
getting a bill for a few hours, done deal, but you're not having any outage. That's the
That's right.
point where we can say, okay,
That's
cloud
right.
is for. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely that is this hybrid approach is very powerful. And so, yeah, well, let's get into a demo. I think everybody, of course, we can talk more, and maybe some questions will come in. By the way, for those watching live, of course, this will be available as a replay. So if some of your colleagues weren't able to see it, we will make the video available. But if you're watching live, type in questions into the chat, and I don't know that there's too much that we won't be willing to cover. So any questions you have, either about what Szymon has said, about live streaming, about the cloud, about on-premise appliances, ASICs, GPUs, CPU, nothing's off
That should.
limits. So,
Yeah.
yep. Okay. Are you ready, Szymon?
Let me just, yeah, I'm ready.
All
Happen
right.
to have some demo prepared
All
for you
right.
guys. So
Good.
let me just try
Can't
to share
wait.
it. I hope you should see it already. Yeah, so
Yes.
basically, as I said, the whole idea behind it is to make it as easy as possible. It doesn't mean that you don't have an option to make it custom or put some extra sophisticated options in the back. Anyway, we have just overview of the channels which the transcoding is running right now or have set up because they can be stopped from streaming. Adding a new channel is really, really simple with the platform because you're just clicking add, and basically when you have to type in some nice name, you will find it later on. And then you of course have to type some input address, which in most of the cases right now on the market is some UDP multicast. What happens right now, usually you should take a look on some analyzer, or you have to make a note or whatever, and you just simply have to know what's there. But we have a nice button here, which will make a probing, which will basically tell you what's in the stream which you just typed.
Amazing.
Then you have a templates which I prepared before, and I want to use that one. I will just show in a second why. And I can press a fill because I'm really lazy. So it's just making all the forms here, and all I have to do is just say, okay, I'm going to output this towards this place, let's say like that, and that. And I'm going to save.
Yep, I see my
And it's
channel
probably,
popped up. Yeah.
yeah,
OS
it's
there.
exactly here. And because by default, we're not starting it to make sure that you really want to have it on the infrastructure, you just want to start it by yourself. We have a nice notifications there, and here you go, it's running. Of course, you always want to change something there. So let's say I want to output this on the different place. And what happens now, and not always happening, that's that again in UX we tend to think it's saving a lot of issues on the operation. What happens? It's just warning you that warns you that the change will take effect, which you literally will restore it. It's just saving the change itself, but it didn't apply it here. You have to restart it, then it's going to be applied. So it's not breaking any production, it's just there. Yeah?
Got it.
And that kind of, I'm not going to go for all that kind of things, but believe me, there is plenty of features like that, which trying to just indicate, okay, are you really sure that you want to spoil your production? Just to make sure that sometimes if you just be in a hurry or you want to make something quick, you're not really doing this, impacting your customers.
Yeah.
Why adding this channel is so easy is that we implemented something which is not really rocket science. It's a templates, which allows you to define some settings before. But as you saw, adding the channel, I can choose the template very easily. I can, of course, create a template from here, but the thing, you can also create it right exactly in the channel, in the adding.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go anywhere else. You're just clicking here, and you can create it by yourself. What you can do with creating the new template, of course, using the names and changing that typical stuff, you also can type the complete configuration from the scratch. So you're choosing the settings, you're choosing resolutions, predefined, but you can put your own. You can choose all these parameters, But
Mm-hmm.
if you happen to start setting up dozens of the channels already, you probably have some of these profiles, so you can load them, not going anywhere, not losing the context, and you can basically browse the settings you like. Let's say I like this one. And the funny part is I can do two things here. So I can share it. So I can use exactly this setting, this profile I'm using, for example, for HBO, I can use it for 11 sports, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or HBO2, maybe better example here. Or I can clone it because I like all the parameters, but I want to change bitrate, for example. So
Mm.
if I clone it, I'm just making easy copy and I can change one or two parameters, all of them, but I like the name or whatever. Or I
Mm-hmm.
can share it so I'm using exactly the profile I'm seeing. So it's so easy. The nice thing also is that if you have a lot of templates or a lot of profiles, like in here, you can change it in line. So you again not losing the content, but you see other profiles, which we again from a UX perspective, if you're changing like you imagine changing 300 channels, you really
Yeah.
want to see what other profiles are, just to
Yeah.
make sure that you're really making the ladder going down and up the way you want, and not
Yeah.
really go to the other screen and make a notes and make a copies and make sure that you didn't mess up, because you're making very often you're making quite a lot of repetitive tasks
Mm-hmm.
one after another, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
mistakes really we saw a big operations really messy to clean up this stuff. So
Yeah.
we put, as you see, a lot of effort into this configuration, and even if you add a new one, you can see I can add like a next one, and it's still on top of the previous I'm editing, to just make sure you have the flow and you understand what's the previous task you was doing. The
Yeah.
same goes
Yeah.
for the video profiles. Yeah. So you got, I think you got my idea. It's really in mind with the guys which wants to make sure that it's in order and in the process. Because when you're
That's
adding
right.
one channel, it probably doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
usually operations we support really using hundreds of channels.
Yeah.
I'm not mentioning sorting up
Your
of the
typical cable
columns.
network has what about for your users has about 200 channels, 300 channels? Is that
Yeah, typical
standard?
typical operations right now is between 200 to 300 channels. That's probably lineups we are around.
Yeah.
So this still, even if you really conservative with the ladders, you still have a few pages of this profile set up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that can be tricky to go through that and not make a mistake which one you are assigning towards what.
Yeah. So, Simon, a question came in that I think it's a good time to answer, and that is, what codecs do you support? And then I'll even ask a follow-on question, is what codecs do you support now? And then, what's involved with adding additional codecs? So, as we well know, it feels almost like every couple of years there's some new standard that's being introduced, but maybe not quite that frequency that's being adopted, obviously. But yeah, so what
Sure.
codecs do you
So
support?
So what we do right now, of course, it's H.264 and HVC or H.265, but then
Mhm.
we also support together with the NETINT boards AV1,
AV1. Yeah,
which gains popularity more and more.
yeah.
So
And by
that's
the way, that's AV1 live. I want to make that clear
yeah, that's
too.
not
Yeah,
exactly, that's not the
very, very
offline, and so,
important. Yeah, that's live. It's not
uh,
not just VOD. Yeah,
which shows the performance of the boards and the whole software to handle that kind of throughputs. It's very important. Good remark, Mark.
yeah.
Indeed, but in general, the design we have here basically doesn't close us to any codecs. So if the boards
Hmm.
which we use to support or to make the performance of the acceleration better, like in this case, NETINT boards.
Hmm.
When the NETINT start to support other codecs or a newer
Hmm.
codecs and a version of the codecs, the software will simply follow on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say whatever is below on the hardware. If you have some specifics, we can go there. And the second point, whatever it sounds, we have to be clear about it, is of course licensing. Yeah, not all of the codecs are just free to use. So
Yeah,
that also can come with some extra cost or extra paperwork, at least to cover.
sure.
But that's to be considered. So basically,
Yeah.
hope
That's
that
for the
answers.
distributor, and that's independent of the solution. Even if you use an open source codec, you're going to
True.
have to
Yeah.
go get
Yeah.
the appropriate licensing. So, yeah.
Just mentioned.
Question that I have as well is this all single bit rate? Do you support HLS dash, um,
Yeah. So
packaging? Do you have a packaging function?
yeah, we have a packaging as of course, as a function. It's a separate product in the line. But
Hmm.
again, an advantage of StreamVX architecture is that you can get it transparently. So
Hmm.
as much as we can sell this like Lego blocks, so you
Hmm.
can have a transcoder which is outputting already packaged content, but you can have a transcoder which you're using just to fit a currently existing packager.
Yeah.
That's that's a huge advantage of our architecture. But yeah, we can of course support HLS dash and CMF. We can also DRM that. We can
Hmm.
serve this as a CDN. So the whole flow, starting from the inputs towards the distribution, it's covered, and it can be covered in the smooth path. We can also provide the recordings of this, so you can make a live TV offline, like timesheet restore TV, that kind of services.
Yeah.
And you can do opposite way with the wizard. We call the product wizard because it's also doing the offline content towards the live channels. And as you see here, because it's I know that the topic today is live, but I just show it quickly to just prove the case with the consistency and the UX. We have a transcoder for the VOD here also,
Hmm.
and it's based on the watch folders. But the funny part, or to just again to sustain the case, the
Yeah.
configuration is exactly the same. So you're choosing the same templates
Yeah.
basically from the same list. So it's very easy. And then you just, with one click, see all the files which was
Hmm.
processed by this watch folder, or if they are in the process, they are progressing here. So it's as
Amazing.
easy as that.
Now,
Yeah, it's very, very clean.
can you do live to VOD? So let's say that, I have a live channel, but I want to create a VOD asset. Can you do that?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what we also can do. It's of course very popular because the tendency how we consume the video content changed. So right now we prefer
Mhm.
to watch this, even the live content, but moved into the time
Yeah.
while we have a time really to consume it. So yeah, we're doing the time shifted, let's say, content,
Hmm.
and it's again integrated deeply towards the products of StreamVX. So I'm not having this right now in the demo, but you
Yeah.
can imagine with the one click, it's just if you happen to have our packaging system, it's just simply allows you to show the channels which we're packaging for you, and just setting up how big time frame you want to record, and it's
Hmm.
just press start and it's done. So
Yeah.
this again, this
Amazing.
tendency to make a simple
Yeah.
few clicks configuration is all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Simon, we could keep talking for much longer.
Probably yes.
I'm looking at the clock here, and we've already gone a few minutes over, which is fine. I hope everybody is getting some value. Um, I just want to, so I do want to open it up. If there's some further questions, you have a minute or two here. Feel free to just put them in the chat, and we'll address them. At the same time, if you add comments to the LinkedIn event, we'll jump on and address them. So lots of ways to get in touch with us. But I want to, I think, end with this. I know that we're both very very excited about. Okay, good. I see a question that came in, and I'll get to this one. But I know Simon, our two companies have been working together, as you mentioned. You really exist to build the software layer and bring the usability and the performance to what otherwise are Lego blocks that are often bolted together with APIs and command line interfaces. But we're really excited about a project that I think we're thinking about, and that is bringing to market more of a full solution. So like a server. Do you want to comment about that and you know give the
Yeah,
listeners?
we really, yeah, again, we really see the big power into the kind of delivering the end-to-end solution. That's the topic of today call, like in one box. Again,
Hmm.
it's the very important part is here. It's still okay. It's a box, but it's not appliance because the hardware is a out-of-the-shelf server. So
Hmm.
there is no specific, I don't know, RAM modules or the drive or whatever. It's just out-of-the-shelf equipment. The boards from NETINT, okay, they are NETINT boards, but you can buy them freely and you can exchange them freely. There is huge advantage which we didn't mention, but I love it actually. It's touching a little this codecs. Imagine having 408s, which doing H.264 and 5. And then if you happen to want to have AV1, you're just swapping the card. It's hot, pluggable, and then suddenly you support the technology which is just on the market for live
Yeah,
content. It's really fresh stuff. You
yeah,
don't have to exchange the half of your rack, yeah? You're just exchanging a really
yeah,
small factor board,
yeah,
and you can do this basically instant. So
yeah.
yeah, that we really believe in going that direction, that we basically combine our forces, let's say that way, nicely,
Yeah.
that we make a really fitted solution which you can multiply, of course. But if you just need like a 30 channels, it's a one box. If you need 100 channels, it's probably four boxes. And
Yeah.
on top of that, all these features we spoke, redundancy, stability, we mentioned that that's really direction which is in our opinion allowing really huge market, huge audience, or
Hmm.
huge amount of customers, operators, to get into the ASIC encoding transcoding part. Because
Hmm.
okay, the big guys we spoke about offline about that. Yeah, the big guys
Hmm.
are developing their own ASICs because obviously that's the way you should do this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to build something which will do this to the rest of
For the
of the
masses.
market, yeah,
Yep,
for the
yep,
masses,
yep.
exactly.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's great. Well, Simon, one last question, and then we will wrap up here. So somebody is asking, can have you integrated, like Chat GPT or GPT-3 um, into your system so it can create program video highlights automatically? So, and I guess maybe you can comment if there's just some functionality, that can do some
Yeah,
AI infused.
yeah. The trick here, okay, again, try to make a short answer for the long story. Indeed, we have a some product which is designed based around the AI to look for the video patterns into the video, which is more into the advertisement market or the
Hmm.
metadata enrichment, that kind of places.
Hmm.
Still, the regions we discussed today, but because of the architecture the transcoder is having, it's really easy to move the parts which we're using in there towards here. And we was definitely thinking about it, because what we did with the product I'm mentioning, it's called VX Finder, because it's finding the patterns. We was working on the project while a big operator had a vast library of the VOD assets, and he wanted to simply implement the skip intro and the next episode buttons, but he
Mm.
had no metadata to support this function. So we
Yeah.
basically scanned with the AI the library and just marked
Mm.
them precisely to the frame. So it wasn't really
Mm,
more or less, it was to the frame when the episode starts, when it ends.
yeah.
So it was easy peasy to just make those buttons and make the experience similar to Netflix or other big
Yeah,
guys.
that's right.
On the like basis of the probably 2 or 3 days of processing instead of sitting probably few persons and making a lot of mistakes trying to
Hmm.
fit it manually. So
Hmm.
answering is right now it's not there in GPT-3 manner, I would say, and it's but it's really close, and for us it's very easy probably to experiment. So I would be glad to follow up on that one with
Yeah.
August. I see here on the chat.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, sounds good. Well, Szymon, thank you again. Really appreciate your time. We're really excited about what you guys are doing, and hopefully this was of interest to the viewers. And so, for all those who joined us, thank you again for watching Voices of Video. We have new episodes coming very regularly, so just watch the schedule, and if you're on our email list, we'll let you know as well. So, thank you again.
Great, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.